So we're entering the end of week 1 of the 2018 NFL free agency period. And surely there's a lot more activity, a lot more moves and signings still to come. But in the first few days, we already know that a hell of a lot has already happened. So I'm here to recap by talking about some of the winners and losers of week 1 of this year's free agency period in the National Football League. It should be fun. Let's start off with the winners. Kirk Cousins. He got his guaranteed big money deal. He got paid. And he got that deal to play for a contender, going to a much better situation than Washington. He gets played in a dome stadium on a championship contending team and get paid in the process. He didn't have to go to the Jets. That's a pretty big win for Kirk Cousins. Clearly has to be the winner. One of them at least. 84 million reasons that say he is. Sam Bradford. Defying all logic and reason and common decent football sense, this son of a bitch got paid again. One of the greatest con men in the history of the National Football League. Going into his 9th season, and he's still conning people into believing that he could somehow magically be that guy. That he will actually stay healthy. That he actually is a quality quarterback. And that he is actually worth paying a shit ton of money to. Holy Christ. Like I said before, Donald Trump, master negotiator, my ass. Sam Bradford and his team, those are the guys that should be writing the book called The Art of the Deal. Because holy hell, over $130 million of guaranteed money now in his career for 34 career wins? And the Cardinals just gave him, inexplicably, $15 million with a chance to earn even more, based off of incentives and crap. They guaranteed a guy with a bum degenerative knee $15 million when he barely played in 2017. Holy Christ. Stupid on the Cardinals, absolutely genius on Sam Bradford and his representation. You guys deserve a freaking round of applause for that one. You deserve it, because you earned it, damn it. Get paid. The Indianapolis Colts, they win because they weren't very active in this free agency period. They didn't waste a bunch of money on overrated, overpriced, and overvalued free agents. Sometimes the best thing you can do, even when you have a bunch of cap space, is not spend it. Now what you can do is wait for the market to play out. There are still some good players out there, and you can potentially get them when the market isn't as hot, the competition isn't as high, so you can get them at terms that are more favorable to you. Even though some Colts fans might be desperately seeking for this team to make big splashy moves and such, I love the fact that the Colts haven't. I feel like general manager Chris Ballard has played his hands really, really well. He's basically the anti-Ryan Grigson. So think about this, Colts fans. If you're disheartened at all with what your Colts have done, or more importantly, haven't done in this free agency period, keep this in mind. Think about what Ryan Grigson would do. He would pay old guys too much. Chris Ballard is doing the opposite. Ryan Grigson versus Chris Ballard. Who do you think's doing the right thing here? Just saying. Then I look at the New York Jets. You get Josh McCown and Teddy Bridgewater, 2 guys, for the price of Sam Bradford. Sounds like a pretty nice win to me. They get Tremaine Johnson. They make their big statement signing, but he also helps address an area of deficiency, which is the secondary. And you're not giving him a crap ton of money after the age of 30 or anything. This is a guy in the prime of his career. Is a prime guy that's shown he could be a number 1 corner in the league, or at least a really, really good number 2. And yes, it's a lot of money, but the Jets sometimes need to overpay for guys because they're the Jets and they stink. So that's what you do. They retained Morris Claiborne at another 1-year deal at a decent price. I felt like Avery Williamson was kind of an under-the-radar, decent signing for them. So they spent some money in free agency, but they didn't totally blow it out of the water. They didn't sit there and go hog wild crazy. And they adapted and adjusted quickly with the money they didn't end up having to give to Kirk Cousins. They were able to keep McCown and Bridgewater and keep open the possibility of drafting quarterback at number 6 or potentially trading up to get that guy. The Philadelphia Eagles win primarily through trades, trading for Michael Bennett, trading for Dale Worley, and getting Torrey Smith out of there. Those are 2 pretty good pickups. Then being able to sign Haloti Ngata in free agency for $2.5 to $3 million for 1 year to provide you some defensive tackle depth. You've now added Michael Bennett and Haloti Ngata to a position of great strength on your team already in the defensive line. You've added strength to strength, and you haven't busted it all up in terms of the salary cap in order to do so. They've also, which is rare for a Super Bowl champion, avoided major losses in free agency. Like, I think, what did they do? They kept Nigel Bradham. They didn't lose anybody, I feel like, major or significant. They're still holding on to the Nick Foles card. They're in a really good spot. So it's tough when you go to the Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl, teams are trying to pick at you. And because of the situation they were in, they just didn't have a lot of guys to pick away. So the Eagles will return in 2018 with their core largely intact, with some key additions. And oh, by the way, Carson Wentz hopefully coming back to form from that torn ACL. And then I look at the Buffalo Bills. They got a third-round pick for Tyrod Taylor, who they didn't want, who they might have potentially had to cut. So that's a really good move. And they were able to move up from 21 to 12. I know this is not free agency, but it happened during that free agency window, that legal tampering period, if you will. They move up from 21 to 12. Yes, they had to ship off Cordy Glenn, but again, they clear out some cap space. They added guys like Star Lotulelei, Trent Murphy, brought back Kyle Williams for another year. They get A.J. McCarron for 2 years and $10 million. When again, somebody decided they were going to give Sam Bradford $15 million guaranteed for one. So it was a good offseason for the Bills. They accomplished a lot. Got some additional draft pick currency, impacted their positioning in round one. They will be major players for whatever quarterback they want, period. So that makes them winners. So those are some of the notable winners. My Bears, I would throw in there as kind of an honorable mention, especially with getting a guy such as Allen Robinson for less than what the Chiefs are paying for Sammy Watkins, when to me, Allen Robinson is a better player. Getting Trey Burton, who I still feel like, honestly, his best football is ahead of him. He's one of the few notable guys the Eagles lost this offseason, and that was in large part for Trey Burton. He just really didn't get as many opportunities because you already had Zach Ertz, you had Brett Selleck there, so there wasn't many opportunities as number 3 tight end. Now he comes in, he'll be the complement to the more inline tight end in Adam Shaheen. You bring in Taylor Gabriel. You keep Pat O'Donnell mega punt for another year. You bring back guys like Sam Acho. You get Prince Amukamura on a reasonable deal. Everything we're led to believe right now is that the Bears are going to sit there and match the offer sheet for Kyle Fuller. It was a good offseason for them, too. The losers. Eric Reid. Not a superstar, but a pretty good NFL safety 5 seasons through his career, entering the peak of his career. There really is no reason other than one that he doesn't have any major offers, that you're not hearing any buzz about him. You're not hearing any rumors about teams being interested in him. And it all ties into the anthem protest. I'm sorry. That's got to be the one thing at this point keeping him unsigned. Because you have inferior players that have been signed to bad contracts already at different positions. Eric Reid should have already had an offer day 1 or 2. He should have already been signed. He should have been one of those bad deals that we're talking about. But he's not. And it has specifically solely to do with the anthem protest. And it is a cautionary tale for these guys that whether I agree with your political stance or not, whether I agree with what you were doing or not, and in some ways I do, in some ways I don't, please understand, while it is I respect the fact that you are willing to take this chance and you are taking this gamble knowing how this could play out, please understand that there could be consequences or repercussions, and fair or not, don't be crying about it later because you knew this could happen. Again, fair or not. And I inherently don't think it's fair, especially when you're talking about the NFL gets paid all this money by the military to pump out all this propaganda. We can't see the starting lineups being introduced, see players introduced, but we can watch the freaking color guard and we can have to watch the national anthem and all this other crap. But the point I'm getting at is, it's a cautionary tale for some of these other players. Unless you get enough of you to join in to where the NFL is going to have no choice and these owners and teams are going to have no choice because you can't leave out more than half the league, you really have to be unified in your message here, and you really have to get enough of you to do it to be dealing from a position of strength, because otherwise there won't be enough of you and you could potentially be blackballed. I would assume ultimately maybe that the 49ers will bring back Eric Reid if all else fails, but we don't know. And it'll be a cautionary tale for a lot of these guys when it comes to the protesting. And we will see come 2018 if some of these guys do cut out the protesting because they're worried about their financial future, and understandably so. You know, politics and beliefs are great, and they're one thing, and everybody should have a right to express them in a calm, professional type of manner, even in a public setting. But understand, there are consequences and blowback to that, fair enough. Ryan Grant, looking like he was going to get an extremely overpriced deal from the Baltimore Ravens. All of a sudden, Michael Crabtree gets waived by the Oakland Raiders. He hits the Oakland market, and magically Ryan Grant fails a physical. Now, maybe he did. Maybe he legitimately failed the physical. But am I the only one that thinks there's a little bit more to the story and throws a little bit of the bullshit flag on this one? Crabtree becomes available and the Ravens are going to go after him and sign him ultimately. And magically, they don't feel so good about massively overpaying Ryan Grant, so they're going to find a way to avoid the deal, having him fail the physical. Just saying. Kind of stinks a little bit. In terms of the teams, the Miami Dolphins, you're releasing Pouncey, you're releasing Ndamukong Suh, and I understand there are salary cap reasons for that, but you're still releasing pretty good players without having clear-cut replacements already in place on the roster. And all the while, you're taking some of that cap space that you create by cutting guys like Pouncey and Ndamukong Suh and signing guys like Albert Wilson, Danny Amendola, and Josh Sitton. That's weird. I'm sorry. Bill Belichick was ready to get rid of a white wide receiver. Just think about that for a second. He loves his white wide receivers, and they usually play well for him. The Wes Welkers, the Chris Hogans, the Julian Edelmans. He had another one here in Danny Amendola, who was a part of 3 Super Bowl teams, 2 championship rings. He was okay with letting him go in free agency. Is he really going to replace Jarvis Landry? I don't know. And the money you could have paid Jarvis Landry, you instead paid Albert Wilson and Danny Amendola? Doesn't seem like you're breaking even there. I just look at this in general, and I'm kind of wondering and perplexed as to what the hell the Dolphins are doing as an organization. Well, what's the idea here? What's the plan here? And I feel like we might still be saying the same thing about him after the 2018 NFL Draft. Like, what's the plan here? What's the direction here? What the hell are you doing? It's just really weird. I don't see where their team got better. They cut maybe players that they had to based off of the salary cap constraints that they got themselves into. But then I don't see where they got better anywhere. Just saying. And then the Arizona Cardinals. You cut Tyrann Mathieu. You let John Brown leave in free agency and get a 1-year prove-it deal for the Ravens for $5 million, even though you probably could have done that for at least the same price. So you let John Brown go. You let Tyrann Mathieu go. And you decide to take that money and instead invest it in Sam Bradford and Mike Glennon. Like, the signing of Andre Smith is one thing. It's low risk, potentially medium to above medium reward. Cool, whatever. Might be able to play guard or right tackle for you. Okay. You're giving Sam Bradford and Mike Glennon combined almost $20 million guaranteed money in 2018. And then potentially thinking about drafting a young quarterback or trading up to get a young quarterback, knowing damn well you're going to be insistent upon having Sam Bradford and or Mike Glennon play all year in front of them. If you were going to give this much money to freaking Sam Bradford and Mike Glennon, why in the hell wouldn't you just keep Blaine Gabbert and Drew Stanton, knowing that there's really not much of a difference, and you would have saved quite a bit of money? If you're a team looking to make moves for salary cap reasons, then why not do the sensible thing and keep the other guys you're already familiar with and pay them a lot less when there's really not that much of a difference? These are the dumb signings that teams make that put themselves in bad salary cap situations. Even though Sam Bradford's deal is only 1 year, that's still guaranteed eats up $15 million of cap space. When you got teams giving similar players at the same position $5 million. And even if they haven't played as much as Sam Bradford, what the hell has Sam Bradford shown you to deserve that much damn money? Coming off of another knee injury where he missed the majority of the season again, and talking about the knee injury being degenerative. Well, what the hell is Steve Keim thinking? He's probably thinking he wants to join Bruce Arians in retirement. And he keeps this crap up, he'll be doing it sooner than he thinks. But that's who I think were the biggest winners and losers of NFL free agency in this first week. You're welcome to chime in the comments section and let me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. Most underrated sports talker on YouTube is this guy right here. This face. This face. Right here. This guy. Me. Just like Daddy. Subscribe, Dad. I'll see you again.